She had always been careful. Her words, chosen with surgical precision. Her stories, coded in metaphors, wrapped in melodies, and hidden beneath layers of poetic mystery. For over a decade, Taylor Swift built an empire on vulnerability, yet somehow kept the most fragile parts of herself safely tucked away from the world. But that changed the moment a single diary entry slipped through the cracks. It wasn't meant to be seen, at least not by millions. A few handwritten pages, never intended for the spotlight, suddenly surfaced online. Pages that didn't just tell a story, they unveiled one. And within them was a confession, a wound, a betrayal, the kind that changes a person or writes a hit song. Fans had long speculated about the real-life inspirations behind her most iconic lyrics. Lovers, breakups, friendships turned sour. Every verse was examined like a puzzle. But this time, the answer didn't come from a cryptic line or hidden message in a music video. It came straight from her own pen, honest, raw, undeniable. And buried in that ink was the truth behind one of her greatest songs, a revelation that points to someone close. Someone who hurt her when she was most vulnerable. This was never part of the performance. This was personal. And now, the world is about to find out what really happened. It began as nothing more than a rumor, a whisper in an online forum, dismissed by many as fan fiction. But the whispers grew louder. Screenshots began circulating. The handwriting was unmistakable, the tone achingly familiar, and soon it became undeniable. A private page from Taylor Swift's personal diary had made its way into the public eye. No one knew exactly how it happened. Some speculated a security breach. Others pointed to someone within her inner circle. A betrayal? An accident? Intentional sabotage? The truth remained murky, but the damage was already done. What was once locked away in the privacy of ink and paper was now being dissected, screenshot, reposted, and judged by millions. This wasn't just another tabloid headline. This was something sacred. Her diary wasn't written for charts, streams, or Grammys. It was written to survive heartbreak, to process betrayal, to heal. And now, a raw, unfiltered glimpse into her most personal moment was out in the open, exposing feelings never meant to leave the page. Among those hastily scribbled lines, one detail stood out, a single reference that hinted at something much deeper than a broken heart. It pointed to a betrayal from someone close, someone trusted, someone who would eventually become the silent villain behind one of her most powerful songs. The world had the first puzzle piece, and it wouldn't take long before they started putting the rest together. By the time Look What You Made Me Do was released in 2017, Taylor Swift was no stranger to conflict, headlines, or being misunderstood. But this song, this was different. It wasn't a ballad. It wasn't a quiet confession. It was a declaration, a line in the sand. It marked the end of an era and the beginning of something far more calculated, theatrical, and unapologetically vengeful. The track dropped like a bomb in the pop world. Gone was the girl with the guitar. In her place stood a woman cloaked in black, eyes sharp with purpose, voice cold and controlled. The song's sound, dark, minimalist, with jagged rhythms and biting lyrics, was unlike anything she had done before. And it wasn't just a change in style. It was a response to betrayal, to public humiliation, to being painted as the villain in a narrative she never wrote. Critics speculated endlessly about the song's target. Was it Kanye West? Kim Kardashian? The industry as a whole? Or perhaps something even deeper, a system that profited off her pain and then condemned her for reacting to it. But behind the glamorized revenge anthem was a woman whose trust had been broken. Look What You Made Me Do wasn't born out of drama. It was born out of exhaustion, of having every word twisted, every move questioned, every relationship scrutinized until it crumbled. It was more than a hit single. It was the sound of someone reclaiming their story. And now, in the leaked diary entry, the emotional thread begins to emerge. A thread that ties the pain behind this song not just to celebrity drama, but to a moment of personal betrayal. A private fracture that pushed her to bury the old self and rise from the ashes, darker, stronger, and armed with lyrics as sharp as a blade. The old Taylor couldn't come to the phone because she was writing this song. Then came the moment no one expected, the discovery of the entry. Among the scattered pages now circulating online was a specific passage that struck a nerve. Unlike the poetic ambiguity of her lyrics, these words were brutally honest. There were no metaphors, no riddles, just emotion, raw and unfiltered. She wrote of trust broken, of being manipulated, of realizing too late that someone close had used her deepest fears against her. The tone was not angry, it was heartbroken. It wasn't about revenge. It was about loss. The kind that doesn't just hurt, it reshapes you. One line stood out. Fans read it again and again, unsure if they were interpreting it correctly. I told them everything. I thought I was safe, but they made me the villain in their story and left me to clean up the pieces. It didn't name anyone. It didn't need to. The entry aligned almost perfectly with the timeline of Look What You Made Me Do, a song long believed to be fueled by public drama. But now it was clear. There was something deeper beneath the surface. This wasn't just about headlines or Twitter feuds. It was about betrayal behind closed doors, about a relationship that had once been real and then was weaponized against her. This revelation shattered the carefully constructed mystery that had surrounded the song for years. The emotional weight behind her performance, the calculated tone of the lyrics, the icy visuals, it all made sense now. This wasn't fiction. It was confession. And the world, for the first time, was reading a chapter of her life she never intended to share. The clues were there, hidden between the lines of her lyrics, buried in carefully chosen metaphors, and now echoed in the leaked diary entry. For years, fans had speculated, but this time, the puzzle pieces began to fit together a little too perfectly. The entry spoke of trust given and broken, of private words turned into weapons, of a betrayal not just emotional, but personal. As readers dissected every sentence, comparisons to public events began to surface. Timelines aligned, lyrics gained new meaning, and a name, once whispered in fan forums, now stood at the center of a digital storm. It wasn't just about one argument or one moment. It was about a pattern, a relationship that had played out under the harsh light of fame, but had fallen apart in the shadows, behind closed doors. Someone she once defended, someone she once believed in. The betrayal didn't come from a stranger. It came from someone inside the circle. As fans began connecting the dots, interviews from years past resurfaced. Video clips, old tweets, moments that once seemed harmless now took on a more sinister tone. Everything changed under the weight of this new context. And just like that, the story behind one of her most powerful songs evolved, from a symbol of general defiance to a direct emotional response to a very real person. Someone who, in their own way, helped shape her most transformative era. She never said their name. She didn't have to. The silence was louder than any accusation. The internet erupted. Within hours of the diary entry leak, hashtags trended worldwide. Fan accounts zoomed in on every word, dissected every possible meaning, and drew connections across albums, interviews, and moments long buried in pop culture memory. The fandom became a full-scale investigation team, analyzing timelines, resurfacing old tweets, and crafting theories that spread like wildfire. But it wasn't just the fans. Mainstream media pounced on the story, flashing headlines like "Swift betrayed by insider" and "Secret diary reveals hidden meaning behind iconic song." Morning shows debated its implications. Pop culture analysts weighed in with grave tones. Journalists who once doubted her began to reconsider everything they thought they knew. Some outlets applauded her vulnerability, calling the leaked passage a heartbreaking glimpse into the cost of fame. Others accused her of orchestrating the leak, a PR stunt, they claimed, too perfectly timed. But the most loyal fans knew better. They saw the pain behind the performance, the girl behind the glitter. Fan-made videos began to flood social media, montages of Taylor's evolution, set to the haunting bridge of "Look What You Made Me Do." Edits placed her diary, words next to the faces of those long suspected. And across platforms, one message echoed louder than the rest. She wasn't being dramatic. She was being honest. In a world quick to judge and slow to listen, the leak did more than stir gossip. It reminded everyone that behind every powerful lyric is a real human story, one filled with trust, loss, and survival. In the end, it wasn't just a diary entry. It wasn't just a leaked secret. It was a reminder of what has always set Taylor Swift apart, not just her voice, her melodies, or her fame, but her unwavering ability to turn pain into power and heartbreak into art. The revelation didn't tarnish her legacy. It deepened it. It gave context to lyrics that once seemed cryptic, and emotional weight to songs that had already resonated with millions. Suddenly, her art wasn't just relatable, it was undeniable. Every chord, every line, every breath in "Look What You Made Me Do Now" carried a different meaning. Fans didn't just hear the song, they felt it. They understood the cost behind its creation, the cost of trust, the cost of vulnerability, and the courage it takes to create something beautiful from betrayal. This wasn't just a scandal. It was a chapter in her evolution, a moment that reminded the world that Taylor doesn't just write hits, she writes truth. And as the final notes of the story settle, one thing becomes clear: the old Taylor may be gone, but the artist she became in her place is more fearless, more powerful, and more honest than ever before. What do you think really happened behind the lyrics? Who do you believe the diary was pointing to? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments. Let's piece this story together. You're one of us. Stay curious, stay brave. Like, subscribe, and never miss a twist.